The Hall of Judgment floated in open space like a silent moon. Its walls were made of crystal metal that reflected stars instead of light. Every sound inside it carried weight, as if even breath had to ask permission before moving. Representatives from dozens of worlds stood in their assigned circles. Some were tall and scaled, others small and wrapped in flowing garments, some shaped in ways humans could barely understand. This place did not belong to one species. It belonged to the law. At the center stood Caliph. She was straight-backed, her hands calm at her sides, her silver-blue eyes fixed forward. To anyone watching, she looked proud and unafraid. That was how her people had taught her to stand, never bending, never pleading. Inside, her thoughts were quieter, heavier. Her fate had already been written. Caliph belonged to the Varethi, a species built on balance and pairing. Every great role, leader, guardian, speaker, was held by those who stood beside a bonded partner. To them, a bond was not romance or comfort. It was stability. Two minds, two instincts, reinforcing each other so no single weakness could bring collapse. Caliph had risen high. She had defended border worlds, negotiated ceasefires, and guided fleets through impossible battles. Her record was flawless, but she had never bonded. Now she was too old to begin, too late to correct the imbalance. The voice of the tribunal echoed through the hall, layered and calm, spoken by many throats at once. Caliph of the Varethi High Line, your service is acknowledged. Your achievements are recorded, however, the law stands. She felt the words settle into her chest. An unbonded elite represents instability. Tradition requires correction. Correction. That was the word they used instead of punishment. She did not bow. She did not speak. Her people valued acceptance of truth more than protest. The sentence continued. Exile will commence at the next stellar cycle. You will be relocated to an unclaimed frontier system. Your rank will be dissolved. Your name will be released from record. Released. Forgotten. Around the hall, no one reacted. Other species watched with polite distance. Internal law was internal law. No one interfered with another culture's balance. Caliph felt something tighten deep inside her. Not anger, not fear, but loss. Not of power or comfort, but of meaning. Everything she had done, every sacrifice, ended not with honor but with quiet removal. She closed her eyes for a brief moment, then opened them again. I accept, she said. The words were clear, controlled. The tribunal prepared to close the matter. That was when a different voice spoke. Permission to address the council. It was human. Several heads turned. A few murmurs rippled through the chamber. Humans were still new here. Clever, fast adapting, emotionally unpredictable. Useful allies but rarely central figures. The speaker stepped forward into the light. Captain Elias Rowan wore a simple uniform, unmarked by decoration. He was tall for a human, broad-shouldered, but nothing about him suggested dominance. His face was serious, his eyes steady. The tribunal paused. State your relevance, the layered voice said. Elias took a breath. He had not planned to speak. He had not even known he would until the moment came, but something about the finality of Caliph's sentence had struck him hard. I represent humanity, he said, and I request clarification. Clarification of what? Of what you define as a bond. A soft stir moved through the hall. The tribunal answered. A bond is a paired state of biological and cognitive stability, established between compatible members of the same species. Elias nodded slowly. And if that stability can be achieved another way, silence followed. Caliph looked at him for the first time. Her gaze was sharp, assessing. Humans did not usually challenge definitions older than their civilization. That is not applicable, the tribunal said. Compatibility is not theoretical. Elias shifted his stance, hands relaxed at his sides. Humans disagree, he said calmly. We believe bonds are formed by choice, trust, and shared responsibility. Biology matters, but it's not the only measure. Murmurs grew louder now. Some species leaned forward. Others stiffened. Caliph felt confusion stir inside her. Why was he doing this? You are not Varethi, the tribunal said. Your beliefs do not alter their law. Elias looked directly at Caliph. Then let me ask a different question, he said. Is the purpose of the bond survival or tradition? The words landed hard. The tribunal hesitated, not because it lacked an answer, but because the question itself broke protocol. The bond ensures survival, the voice replied. Then I offer a solution, Elias said. Before Caliph could react, he stepped fully into the central circle. I volunteer to form a bond with her. The hall erupted. Some delegates spoke at once. Others froze in disbelief. A few laughed softly, thinking it was a misunderstanding. Caliph's breath caught. He couldn't mean interspecies bonds were rare, dangerous. Most failed within cycles. Different instincts, different needs, different lifespans. The tribunal fell silent again. You propose an untested union, it said, one not recognized by Varethi biology. Elias nodded. I do, and you understand the risk, the voice asked. Failure will not pause her exile, it will accelerate it. Caliph turned fully toward him now. Human, she said quietly, you do not know what you are offering. He met her gaze. I know exactly what I'm offering, he replied. Choice. Something inside her shifted. No one had ever offered her that before. The tribunal conferred in silence. Lights along the walls dimmed and brightened as calculations and precedents were examined. Finally, the voice returned. A provisional trial will be permitted. Caliph's heart pounded. The bond will be observed. Stability, cooperation, and functional balance will be measured. Any sign of failure will result in immediate exile. Elias exhaled slowly. That's fair, he said. The tribunal's tone hardened. Be warned, observers will not intervene, they expect collapse. The judgment concluded. The hall's energy loosened. Delegates began to disperse, already discussing the spectacle. Caliph remained still. Elias turned to her. If you don't want this, he said, lowering his voice, I'll step back. She studied him. His posture was open, not demanding, not proud. You would give this up, she asked. After challenging the council, yes, he said, because it has to be your decision too. No Varethi male had ever said that to her. Slowly, she inclined her head. I will accept the trial, she said, not because she trusted him, but because, for the first time, the path ahead was not already sealed. As they walked from the hall together, Caliph felt the weight of countless eyes on them, some curious, some hostile, some amused. Elias noticed her tension. They're staring, he said lightly. They are waiting for you to fail, she replied. He smiled faintly. Humans are used to that. Ahead of them waited a station suspended between worlds, neutral ground for a bond no one believed in. Caliph did not know if this human would save her, but as she stepped into the unknown beside him, she realized something even more dangerous. For the first time in her life, she hoped. The station chosen for the trial floated in quiet space between three trade routes. It was old, strong, and neutral, built long ago by a species that no longer existed. Its halls were wide and plain, its systems reliable but simple. Nothing about it was meant to impress. It was meant to endure. Caliph stood near one of the wide viewing windows as their transport docked. Beyond the glass, stars drifted like distant sparks. She had commanded fleets and walked battle decks without fear, yet now her hands felt heavy. This place would decide everything. Observers from several species were already present. They did not hide their purpose. Small lights followed Caliph and the human as they moved, recording every step, every pause, every change in posture. This bond was not private. It was a test. Elias noticed the lights and frowned. They don't miss much, he said. They are not here to understand, Caliph replied. They are here to confirm failure. He nodded once, accepting that without protest. Their assigned living space was simple. 2 connected rooms, a shared common area, and a work console. No comfort beyond what was needed. No symbols of either culture, neutral like everything else. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Caliph broke the silence first. "You should know," she said, "my people do not bond through emotion, we bond through function. If you seek gratitude or closeness, you will be disappointed." Elias leaned against the wall, arms relaxed. "I'm not here for praise," he said. "I'm here to do the job." That answer unsettled her more than kindness would have. The first days were difficult. Their rhythms did not match. Caliph woke before the artificial dawn and trained her body in silence. Elias stayed up late reviewing data and slept less regularly. She preferred direct instruction. He preferred discussion. She valued efficiency. He valued understanding. Observers noted every difference. On the third day, a Varethi traditionalist observer formally logged concern. "Mismatch in behavioral structure," the report stated. "Long-term stability unlikely." Caliph read the report without reaction. She had expected nothing else. What she did not expect was Elias changing his habits. The next cycle, he joined her training without complaint. He could not match her strength or precision, but he learned. He asked questions. He adapted his movements instead of forcing hers. Later, he adjusted his work schedule to match her rest periods. "Why?" she asked him once. "Because we're being measured as a unit," he replied. "If one side is always bending, the structure breaks." No one had ever spoken to her like that. As days passed, small changes appeared. Their conversations grew easier, not warmer but steadier. Elias learned Varethi restraint. Caliph learned that silence did not always mean distance. Still, pressure grew. Messages arrived from her people, cold and formal. They warned her that dependence on a human would weaken her instincts. They reminded her that exile was cleaner than shame. She did not respond. Then the station began to fail. It started with a power fluctuation in the outer ring, minor at first. Then life support sensors reported irregular flow. The observers noticed. Maintenance crews were slow to act. This station was not high priority. Caliph reviewed the data and stiffened. "This pattern," she said, pointing at the console, "it mirrors pre-collapse signs." Elias leaned in, scanning fast. "If that outer ring goes," he said, "the station will start shutting down in sections." Including the observation hub, she added, observers would be trapped. For a moment, protocol held her still. This was not her command. This was not her people. Then Elias was already moving. "We need access to the core," he said, "and we need it now." Security hesitated. Authorization was unclear. No one wanted responsibility. Elias turned to Caliph. "Can you reroute manually?" "Yes," she said. "But it will overload secondary systems." He smiled slightly. "Good," he said. "I'll handle the rest." They moved together without discussion. Caliph took control of the core interface, her hands steady as she redirected power flows. Elias crawled through narrow service passages, sealing breaches, rerouting circuits, using human tools and improvisation where standard parts failed. Observers watched in stunned silence. This was not dominance, not command. It was coordination. At one point, a pressure door failed, trapping Elias between sections. Emergency locks sealed. Caliph felt it instantly. The system feedback changed. A single thread of awareness snapped tight. "Elias," she said sharply. "Respond." Static, her instincts surged. She moved without waiting, overriding safeguards, forcing open access paths that protocol would never allow. The door opened just enough. Elias stumbled through, bruised but breathing. "You didn't have to do that," he said, catching his breath. "That was risky." "So was entering the passage alone," she replied. He laughed quietly. "Fair." When the crisis ended, the station stabilized. Lives were saved. Observers were unharmed. The silence that followed was different. Reports flooded the tribunal. Not of failure, but of performance beyond expectation. Mutual response efficiency increased, one observer noted. "Decision-making improved under stress," wrote another. "The bond shows adaptive reinforcement," a third admitted reluctantly. Caliph stood before the review chamber days later, Elias at her side. She felt different now, not weaker, not divided, balanced. The tribunal's voice was slower this time. The results contradict precedent. Elias waited, hands clasped loosely behind his back. The bond is functional, the tribunal continued. Stability is confirmed. Calith's chest tightened. Therefore, the voice said, the sentence of exile is withdrawn. A quiet wave moved through the chamber, but the tribunal was not finished. The implications extend beyond one individual. If bonding can be achieved through choice and cooperation, tradition must be examined. Calith looked at Elias. He met her gaze, steady as ever. The tribunal turned to him. Human, it said, state your intent. Elias spoke clearly. I didn't do this to challenge your culture, he said. I did it because no one should be erased for failing to fit a rule that no longer serves life. Silence followed. Calith stepped forward. I choose this bond, she said, not as correction, not as rescue, but as partnership. The tribunal accepted the declaration. Across the alliance, messages spread. Humans were discussed differently now, not as fragile newcomers, but as a species that faced the universe and refused to accept inevitability. Later, back at the station, Calith stood again by the viewing window. The stars looked closer now. Elias joined her. So, he said, what happens next? She considered the question. For the first time, she said, nothing is decided for me. He smiled. That's a good place to start. Side by side, they watched the galaxy move, changed, just slightly, by a human who stepped forward and an alien who chose to take his hand.